Like my podcast, bub. Hello, Tom.
Dana, thank goodness you're here.
Whoa.
Decided to come in at a 10.
Yeah, coming in hot.
Yeah. Even if something ridiculous was happening or going on, I would still set up the pad and do the show. Like in the middle of like some kind of ridiculous crisis that would be happening.
Right. Then we'd end up with like a Cloverfield or a Blair Witch thing.
Yep.
You know, with your hair out, you came like it was very Kramer-esque.
Dana, you know what's going on in there?
Right. So welcome, loyal listeners, and Tomo Kramer, for joining us at Two Guys Talking Toys.
That is what we are. We're happy for everyone who joins us and enjoys listening and enjoys watching. I want to thank you for subscribing to the channel and telling your friends and your buddies and all that fun stuff. The more people like and subscribe and talk about us, the more we get out there to new ear holes and new eye holes.
So, Tom, did you get anything new that you could be one guy talking toys for a moment?
I sure could. I did pick up some new stuff. We had lunch today, which is one of the highlights of my week. It was get to hang out and chat a little bit. And then afterwards went to Retro Relics, which I keep wanting to call Time Warp, but that's not what they are anymore. I don't believe.
They combined.
Yes,
shameless plug.
They did the fusion dance with themselves and combined into a little bit of a smaller space.
The fusion dance. Is that like the neutron dance?
The fusion dance is what Goku and Vegeta do in order to fuse into one being called Gogeta. And he does this to fight larger threats. It's almost like Voltron, where you're like, why did you just combine to begin with? Why are we wasting time?
Right.
Then you wouldn't have a show. So that's what they do.
That's true.
Their kids do it. The kids they each have kids. The kids also do a fusion dance, and you get Go Tanks from that. And then there's a cheat. There's a cheat for it where there's a pair of earrings, and if each person wears one earring, you can fuse.
Like your AirPods.
Yeah, just like if I shared I don't know if they have the same property or if they've been enchanted by a magical dragon or anything, but in theory, if I had one AirPod and you had the other one, we could fuse into Tama.
I feel like everything I own should be enchanted by a magical dragon.
I think things would be a lot more interesting if they were.
The magic dragon.
He was not my favorite dragon, but if he could enchant things, then I'd be on board. I'd be friends with Puff.
He's the only magical one I know.
He's probably also
I guess
the
that's
only.
Not true because there's all the ones from Dragon Ball and everything else. So anyway, we'll do a show on dragons someday.
We definitely need to do a show just based on dragons. I don't think we did. I don't think we've done one yet.
We haven't. We've done like sidekick animals and steeds.
Mm-hmm.
We've never done specifically dragons.
Oh, dragons are getting added to the list. I feel like I failed us somehow by not adding them on there, but I've already been doing this for a while.
Well, I'm going to bring up a topic today. You're going to be like, wow, we haven't spoken about that topic, and it's unbelievable. Anyway, go on. What did you get?
I'm looking forward to it. So I found in Retro Relics Splinter from the NECA Mirage line, which is funny because I really
like, who needs pupils?
Please give me a vacation. For the love of Pete. And he's such a great little figure, which is also part of the reason why it took me so long to get my hands on him, because I did want him. He is a great figure. He's real spot on. Like the sculpting is great. It really matches.
I do like him. And he's got that stout look. It's very Yoda-esque.
Yes. It's really well done. But unfortunately, he costs the same amount as any other figure in the line. So he's like 30 something, and he did not cost that much in Retro Relics. So I was really glad to get my hands on him for a pretty good. He comes with a decent amount of stuff, which is kind of cool. But he also is maybe 3.5 to 4 inches. So I held off in hopes that this day would come, and then it did. So I got Splinter, and that's great. He's going with the Mirage Turtles where he belongs.
Nice.
And then when we went to Target and didn't really see much of anything, but then I went to Walmart, and I can't believe I said that without retching a little bit. But I went to Walmart and they had the new Eternia Evil Lynn.
Oh, that's a good figure.
Yeah, and I've seen her on pegs before. I think the wave is Flying Fist, He-Man, Fisto, and her, and I've seen them all on pegs, but I just kept passing up on this because I think we've talked about it before, where the line has been going on for so long, and we've kind of watched them go through their growing pains, and this really seems to be like the end of the road. They figured it out. Like they now know exactly kind of like what they want their aesthetic to be. They've worked out the proportioning. They've worked out some of the detailing has just gotten better and better. Like the face sculpt on this is fantastic, and like this is kind of like the end
Yeah,
where
that
they
face sculpt is amazing. The eyes, the little
yeah
makeup bit is
it's
so well done.
it's really good, and I I've bought a lot of He-Man and I've bought a lot of Masters of the Universe, and on the one hand, these are great. On the other hand, it's a little bittersweet that like it took them this long to get to this point because now this is what like Evil Lynn number 4,
Or
5,
yeah,
and same thing for He-Man. Like we're on He-Man number 4, 5. Same thing with Skeletor. 6, 7 versions of Skeletor to get to a really good Skeletor. And granted, they're really good, but now
yes,
there's so many other things to pay for, and the prices. There's still that price creep that's happening. So
yeah.
I
It's
was
not
torn,
even a
but
creep.
yeah, I didn't want to miss out on this. So I hemmed and hawed, and at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'd rather have her and I guess not need her, maybe put her in a bin or something. But I
That's
definitely
what
want
women
to
want to
have
hear.
her.
That's what women want to hear.
Yeah,
You
this
don't
is why
want the guy to say I need you. You want the guy to say I want you, right?
yeah
So
yeah
that's
yeah. So after you get done hemming and hawing, make sure you let her know how important she actually is to you, and let her understand that it's not her, it's you. So, so as always, I've got mail. I've got a box with stuff that
you've got mail.
it's been so long since I've heard that that particular phrase. I think we're all better off not having heard it for a while. We
I
all
think
miss the
everything in life should have had that little message. Like, like they
just when
should
you
just be at
receive
the
something.
doctor's office and be like, "Yeah, you have herpes." Like,
Oh,
whatever it
that's
is.
that's a sad it's a sad day in the doctor's office.
You have perfect blood pressure.
That's a good.
That's a good one.
If that's just how your doctor sounds, you're like, yeah, I always like getting my diagnoses from
Yeah.
you because you're so pleasant. Yeah, he's looking at your chart. You've got low cholesterol. Thanks, thanks, doc.
What's in the box?
This could be one of 3 potential things.
Sounds like Tic Tacs.
I ordered all the Tic Tacs. Oh, I'm very excited for this. So this is
Oh, Nino.
the Loyal Subjects. I think it was the San Diego Comic Con exclusive version of Toka.
So this is the BTS action guys, right?
Yes. So they are the ones who we have all. It's interesting to think how many toy companies we've seen
Or
who are
BST.
not. Yes. Yeah, they go under a fair number of monikers. They're the Loyal
Right.
Subjects.
I think it's supposed to be like
They're
best
best
action.
action.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. They're best at they're they're BST, they're the Loyal Subjects, they're also AXN, which is just weird. But yet it's funny that we've followed so many different toy companies through their kind of their lows and their highs as they've come along in the toy world to try and make their stuff. And maybe they don't make it that well at first because the first Ninja Turtles line that they made was not good. But I kept
Does that one glow in the dark? It's got a weird color.
sadly no. And I wish that he did go in the dark. And here's his other exclusive buddy, Razar.
Nice.
His coloration change is not as noticeable as Toka's, but I think this is based on the video game.
Oh, that makes
Yeah, so
sense.
this is great. So I have the regular colored Razar. I actually don't have the regular colored Toka, and they sold out on their site, and I was sad. And I was like, if he comes back in stock, I got to get him like immediately. And then he came back in stock, and I was like, oh, great. He's not like crazy aftermarket price. And then I sat there and waited because there were other things that were coming through, and I waited and waited. And then he went out of stock again. And I was like, oh, that stinks. But these two popped up on eBay, and they were just sitting there. And if you find something that's just a regular auction for something that, like, I thought it was going to be ridiculous to try and win these, and I snagged them at the last minute for less than I would have paid for. These were less than one figure at the end of
Nice.
the day. So I came out on top with that. I do wish that he glowed in the dark. The only
Looks
problem
like he
is
would, but
I really wish that he did. The only problem is that BST's glow in the dark is awful. And I hope that's something they address going forward, because I want the stuff that they want to have glow in the dark would look really, really cool if it actually glowed in the dark. But whatever it is that they're doing at the factory, pretty terrible. Doesn't glow. Like I've sat like the Ninja Turtle, the demon herd turtles that we got from Macy, or the Toys R Us and Macy's. I sat there with a light on those guys for a while. I just propped up my phone, let the light shine on it, and took it into the dark. Barely glows.
like
So
to have a
it's
good flashlight, and every night before I went to bed, I would shine on the on and it
mhm.
would glow. It would do pretty well.
Oh, not on my turtles, not on the Slash either. The Slash is also supposed to be completely glow in the dark, and I've
Oh,
never gotten a decent glow out of them.
oh,
They're pretty sad
interesting.
sitting next to, like, Chester Cheetah blows him out of the water.
I'm a little jealous of
Which
that Chester cheater. I'm going to be honest with you.
he's pretty great. Should get one. So
I still have to get Count Chocula.
that's what I've gotten. What have you gotten?
I picked up McFarlane's DC gal Power Girl.
Power Girl.
It's a
What's she gripping there? What she's
she's casting a spell, showing someone
oh
how to
she,
make
she
pizza
sure is.
pie.
Look, she's
Um,
look, as Batman taught us in Public Enemies. Power Girl can indeed cast a spell on 15-year-old boys.
yes. You know what I like about this figure? It and they did do the, Power Girl,
Mm-hmm.
a fan service
Mm-hmm.
proportions that
They
they
made her
always do for
comic
Power.
accurate.
Yeah. But this is an older woman. It's not a
It
kid.
does it does look very good. They did a
Yeah,
good job with the face sculpt on that.
and it's got the wired cape.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the double jointed knees
I saw someone bring this up the other day. Kudos to McFarlane. I know that we give him a lot of junk on
and the elbows.
I know we give McFarlane a lot of guff on the channel, but kudos to him for, like, the wired capes. And even though his
Yeah,
his stuff is also starting to creep up a little bit in price, not that much. And his normal figures that just came out regularly, a lot of them had wired capes, and it didn't affect
yeah,
the pricing, which is really cool.
yeah. And her cape's connected in a cool way. I like how it's
Mm-hmm.
like done across the entire shoulders underneath like her neck piece there. I don't know if you can see it really
Mm-hmm.
well, but it's well
Oh,
done.
okay.
Um, yeah, and it's a great figure. Now, what I didn't know, I even like the grips on the bottom of the boots. They did those
Oh,
details.
that's a cool detail.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um, I didn't realize when I grabbed it that it was their silver collectors, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so when I got up there and rang it up, this was 29.99,
Oof.
which I thought a little pricey because they're not, other than the box
So, yeah,
saying that it's a collector, it's really not much different than the other figures in the regular line. So I don't know why it's doing that, but it did. She did come with Streaky.
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I, that is one thing that I wish McFarlane would start doing. Articulate those animals, man.
Yeah.
Want an articulated Streaky. That is great. That is awesome. But yeah, I don't know what he's using to determine whether or not something is an exclusive, or what warrants exclusive pricing, or the fact
Right.
maybe it's like the fact that it's a woman. Maybe that's the exclusive.
Right. I don't make many
Because
of these, so maybe
we need to do we need to do a
is he
stream where we
crying?
just open. He's very upset. I was trying to go for, like, he's covering up in a boxing match, but he could also just be very upset
Or
that,
maybe,
you had
he's
to pay that much for a Power Girl.
he's a gentleman. Power Girl walks in, he's like, I shouldn't
Oh,
do
I
this.
shouldn't. He also is a wolf, so he's trying to control his baser
He
Tex
got
Avery
cartoon with the
instincts.
auga, like his eyes would
Yes,
come out.
he's trying to control his inner Tex Avery. We
Uh
should we
Text
should do a
Avery. Yes.
we should do an episode where it's just us opening toys. I don't know why I can't stop
Yeah,
fiddling with
because nobody
these.
nobody does that.
Just saying, wouldn't be for anyone else, just us, because this is fun. And we have
So
there's so much stuff sitting around that would be neat to just crack open and take a look at. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Go on.
So Tom, I enjoy doing this podcast with you because you are the best at what you do. uh,
I'm trying to figure out
and
what
there's
that is.
somebody else that we haven't spoken about yet. Who is the best at what they do? It's
Oh my god.
Wolverine.
Is this where you've been all day? You've been at the Weapon X.
Yeah,
The
got my
Weapon X shop.
adamantium claws.
You're like, I gotta cut lunch short. I gotta go. Where are you going? I got stuff to do.
Cut lunch short. Nice. Well done.
With my You had to meet up with your doctor. He's now like, you
Yeah,
got adamantium.
got something here.
If you could just get a little, you got a little bit on you right there. It's
Oh, that is your eye. Um, yeah, we've talked about a lot of great characters, and you know what? We've never talked about Wolverine, which is surprising because forever, for a span of I don't know, 12 years, 15 years, like Wolverine was the one thing that everyone talked about. Everyone loved Wolverine. And you know, I'm a little concerned when the new X-Men movies start coming out because the old stories were all about Wolverine mostly, except for
Mhm.
Cyclops and Jean Grey. But even that
Mhm.
was Wolverine. Um,
Look, as long as they get Henry Cavill to play Wolverine, well, things will be okay.
right, because Wolverine's 6'4".
He's always been that in the yeah. You'll never.
In
We
the
got our.
MCU.
They showed us this. I loved I loved in all right. Spoilers for Deadpool Wolverine, a movie that you all should have seen by now. There is that one clip where we get to see how a physically accurate in the real world, based on his comic stats height, Wolverine would look.
Right.
And it was one of the most hilarious moments of the film where he's on the stool and he's got to jump down from the stool.
Because he's supposed to be 5'4", I think.
Yeah, I think that's as big as he's supposed to get. He's the
Yeah.
size of a fifth grader.
So I think I've mentioned this on the show before that I remember not knowing who Wolverine was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 1984 when the Secret Wars line came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same time Superpowers came out. It was a great line. It had Doctor Doom, Daredevil, had Kang. I didn't know who Kang was at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And it had Wolverine. And even then, not even knowing who he was, I loved the figure because it had
Mm-hmm.
clip-on claws. They clipped right onto his wrist. Because all those figures were the same buck, same arms, same legs,
Yeah.
different heads, different paint. But he had clip-on claws and they were long. And I was like,
Yes.
this
Yeah.
guy's awesome.
Sold.
This guy's
Sold.
awesome. I don't even
He's
know
running,
who he is.
he's running around with Lee press-on claws. I'll take it.
Yeah. And then you found out who he was, and then it was on because he's like, he's everything you want in the good guy, like the anti-hero. He was
Yeah.
the perfect anti-hero. He really was.
Yeah. It was every. You're right. Everything that made up Wolverine. He's got the mysterious past. He's got the never say die attitude. He's a little bit of a jerk, and he can get away with it
Yeah.
because he is so good at what he does. And what he does is insert whatever he feels like saying in that particular story. I'm the best
Right.
there is at what I do, and what I do is killing bad guys or
Right.
stabbing these people or breaking into whatever facility. And that's cool. And
Right.
I get that it's overdone now, but the original introduction of him, or when they decided to maybe flesh out the character a little bit, because I know, he started off in like the Hulk and just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
meandered around, and then there's the Alpha Flight stuff. But when they really buckled down and started to flesh the character out and do some interesting things with him, he was a cool character. And it was, not like the newest thing in the world, but it was that Goldilocks zone where
Right.
this guy had super cool weapons. You really don't get any cooler than that.
Right.
The striking visuals. really good. So I'm just me being artsy. Super striking silhouette from him. Like whether it be in a fight scene, depending on how you, because every artist interprets his claws differently. If you get
Yep.
someone that nails it just right, if you've got like a Sam Keith working on him, or your Jim Lee, man, what a great visual you can get
Yeah.
with him.
The coolest thing about the character was you didn't know how long he was alive.
Yeah,
And you didn't know where he came from. So any writer could go anywhere with it.
yeah.
You're in feudal Japan, World War II, Canada. I couldn't think of a fun thing to say about Canada, but Canada. It's Boxer Day in Canada. Um, and you could be anywhere at any time. The Old West,
Hmm.
all kinds, and then, the future with the Age of Apocalypse, Wolverine, and he's always Wolverine. And I think the worst thing they did was write the origin story, but we're not talking about the comics, but
Yeah, yeah.
the worst thing they did.
Wolverine Origins. Sometimes you don't need to pull the curtain back.
Right,
Sometimes it's fun to just leave him alone. Just let it
right.
be.
Because you took it like every Wolverine comic could have been a what if. But
Yeah.
so we got in 1984, we got that Wolverine character, which was the coolest introduction to me. I didn't know who he was, and I went and found
Hmm.
out. And then there was a bit of a drought, right? Because
Yeah.
Secret Wars went, it went its way, superpowers went its way, and then, you had the 80s and everything that was the 80s, right? And then you come to like 90, 91, and we get Toy Biz. And
Hmm.
by this time, everyone knows who Wolverine is
Yeah.
because then we also shortly after got the animated series.
The X-Men relaunch had happened with Jim Lee revamping everything and breathing new
Yep.
life. The Marvel, the overall comics boom was in full swing. Yeah, we got the animated series, and yeah, he was everywhere. If you sold a comic, Wolverine kind of needed to be on the cover, or if you just wanted a random spike in
Right.
sales, you put Wolverine on the cover. You teamed him up with everybody, and
Yeah.
that translated into we need toys of this guy, and we
Yeah.
got toys of this guy.
I remember the first Toy Biz one
Hmm.
still had the tan,
Yeah.
right? And he had a mask that went on and off. The
Hmm.
face was a little weird. It looks kind of
Yeah.
almost Cro-Magnon like.
But yeah, they
Uh,
were still working it out.
but he had cool claw gimmick
Hmm.
because in his wrist there was like I
Oh,
don't know,
that's right. It was a little slider.
it was like a canal
Yep.
in his wrist, and it had a little niche. So
Hmm.
the claws had a handle you could pull back and then click
Yeah.
into that little cove there, the little notch, and
Uh-huh.
his claws would be out. And then and it was spring loaded. So all you
Hmm.
had to do is flip that out of the little notch and his claws would come out. The other
Yes.
cool thing about that gimmick was he could stab somebody and the claws would go into his wrist
Yes.
and it
It
looked
was a
like,
great visual.
yeah,
For,
it was,
especially for kids at that time,
yeah,
that was a big deal. Because
yeah.
now it literally looks like I'm doing damage.
Yeah, and that was that was I don't know, 90, 91 or 92 that one came
Hmm.
out. And I was so excited for that because now I knew who he was.
Yes.
And I was like, yes, I got a new Wolverine. And it was also, and then it exploded from there. Like between 91, late 91, 92, and 97,
Hmm.
we got no less than 54,000 Toy Biz Wolverine figures, right? So the next one was the first one that we saw in the yellow and blue, and
Hmm.
that was in 92. And I don't think the claws were retractable on that one. I'm not sure. But it had the like tiger stripe look,
Yeah.
that was the first yellow and blue one. I remember he's a little bit bow-legged. He was a little weird. He was
Yeah.
thinner. He looked more
Hmm.
like, more like that heroic stance that
Yeah.
Wolverine really doesn't have. Yeah, and then they did another one where it was more blue and then yellow, and then they did the Weapon X,
Which was
all
the
all
which was
between
the
them.
verse which was the version that had his I remember having one where his claws were they had to adjust the arm to fit them in, but the claws were a little bit curved,
Right.
and when you press them in, they would hook against the top of the fist, but they were
Yeah.
also spring loaded in, so when you let go, they would pop back out.
Yeah, that was like that was the yellow and blue one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was like 92.
Mhm.
And then they kind of used that design a couple of times for a repaint because then they got into,
Yeah.
you got the Weapon X Black Ops one, right? It was
Hmm.
the black, and then they did it in blue, and then they had like Wolverine. Now they call them like different editions. Like that was the Wolverine
Hmm.
fifth edition, and it was
Yeah.
like up 2 years into the line. They were already on
Hmm.
number five, and but they had a KB exclusive that was like olive green. Was that
Yeah.
same one? So it was a blue, a black, and then the green, and then they did the Weapon X where he's pretty much
Yeah. When did
naked. He's got the
yeah, when
big
did
giant helmet.
now I remember that coming out and not being familiar enough with, like, I knew who he
That was in
was. I kind of,
92. It was early on.
yeah.
Like they
I
just threw out all the Wolverines.
Yeah, they tried a little bit of everything. And I remember like Speedo Wolverine came out with the helmet and I was like, what is happening here? And it
Right. It
really
looked
threw me
like
off.
Cerebro's stepbrother, right?
Yeah, I was like, he went crazy. He murdered Xavier and he took Cerebro and he ran out into the wilderness wearing just a tiny Speedo. Why is this happening? And it took me a while to understand that the whole Weapon X thing, and this is what he like when he was in the tank. There's never a tank accessory to fully complete the
Right.
context of this figure. But yeah, I remember that one popping in. Never my favorite, not one that I actively seek out. You're right. There are so many different. They have depicted him in so many different outfits in the
Right.
comics. It's cool to see toy
Right.
makers see how many they can get through.
Right. And then they did like and they were still cranking out Wolverines. In like
Yeah.
95, they made them a little bit bigger one, and then they started to get into the animalistic looks. Like they
Oh, but
were
before we get to him, do you remember the? I remember the Toy Biz kind of standard release, and then that they were doing the larger series where they
Oh,
just scaled
the
up.
KB where they were at
Yeah,
KB. I have
yep,
a bunch of those that I got at KB for like $5.
yeah. I remember they were always clearancing those. I remember
Yeah,
getting. I didn't have the large normal colored one. I remember getting the gold
the
and black
gold
one.
one.
And
Yeah,
then there was a later series where I don't remember they came together, but there was a large like gold and brown
yeah,
version of him that came out. It was
yeah.
him
Because
and
they did
Sabretooth.
Sabretooth the same way. Yeah.
Yes. And maybe that's where McFarlane got it in his head that kids wanted everything covered in gold.
Maybe, but I love that line because it was the same exact molds.
Yeah.
They just made them bigger. And boy, they made out some of them were weird,
Yeah.
like the
Like the weird carnage.
Carnage.
Yes, the
Yeah,
cards that had Vengeance's head. And I was like,
yeah,
did
and it
someone
was
just get
so big. He
confused?
looked like a bobble.
It's so weird. But
And She-Hulk was the same body as
mhm.
Sue Storm and
Yes.
Mystique. Yeah,
And you're like, shouldn't she be on top of Rogue's body? Like you would think, but yeah, I don't know. It was a quick. It was. I would like to know more about the what was going on at Toy Biz when they were cranking those out because it really seemed maybe kind of last minute. Like, what we need more stuff. What else can we do? All things
right.
like
But
good
they did
toys,
some
right?
cool, like that Mysterio in that line.
Yes, that is a very good
Fantastic.
Mysterio.
The Vulture with the hinged
Hmm.
wings.
Yeah,
Very cool. There were a lot of cool figures in that line. A lot of bad ones, but a lot of cool ones. Like
yeah.
most of the women were done very poorly in that line.
Mhm.
But the Cable was awesome.
Yeah. Cable was good. Their
Deadpool was
Ghost Rider
good.
was good.
Oh, Ghost Rider
Their
was good.
their Vengeance was
The
good, and their
Punisher.
their large Vengeance was awesome because they glowed in the dark. So I
Yeah.
had him and Ghost Rider, and they were super durable, really cool looking figures. A surprising amount of detail that was not lost when they scaled them up, and they still had like Vengeance still had like a weird rib gimmick going on where his
Yeah.
ribs could move a little bit. Yeah, those were excellent.
Those are
And
outstanding. I like those guys a lot.
but like you said, like they Toy Biz started making the Feral Wolverine to go along with the Fatal
Right. And then
Attraction
that's when they did
storyline.
with the Fatal Attraction one. And he was haunched over.
Yes.
And then you get the bone claws. There was one with
Hmm.
the gi that had the bone claws and the
Hmm.
steel claws.
Yeah.
Um, and they did like the Age of Apocalypse they started doing when he was Patch and
I
inexplicably had a hand cut off.
I remember really liking, but wasn't able to get my hands on the werewolf Wolverine that was
I was
part of
just
that
to bring
three.
that out. That's
Yeah,
outstanding.
it's a
I have
great
that one.
it's a great figure, and I love the idea
It's
of a
so
fully
big.
Yeah, he's huge, and the idea of a werewolf running around and suddenly pops a pair of adamantium claws is nightmare fuel. Like
That was
that's great.
there were several in that line. It's called Mutant Monsters, right? It was
Yes, it was
him.
that. It was the lizard. It was or spider lizard and that winged venom that I would
Oh,
still love to
right,
get my hands on because I remember the solicit on the back had that venom figure, but he's painted in venom colors. But
right.
the production model has that weird kind of
Was
reddish
Sugar
flesh
Man in that
tone.
one too? There was a Sugar Man, wasn't
I
there?
think he may have been.
Hmm.
He may have been part of that wave, or he was. Oh wait, no, no, you're right. You're right. I think he was part of that
Because you
wave.
would
So
wind
it was
him up
four
and
of them.
his jaw would laugh like the Joker.
Unnerving from the very beginning. Everything about Sugar Man
Yeah.
is disturbing. But yeah, Wolverine being part of that line made sense, and I really like that design. I would, of all the things that Hasbro keeps cranking out, and they've been doing a really good job of it because Toy Fairs is happening, so we're getting to see all like the really cool stuff coming out.
Yeah.
I would love for them to revisit that monster line because there's some really good stuff. I don't care if they're all build a figures. I don't care if they're all or like standalone build a figures that you charge whatever extra for. But man, those were really cool looking. I want a werewolf Wolverine, whatever they would call that.
I forgot what it was called. But yeah, I mean the 90s were just full of Wolverine and any comic, independent or Dark Horse or Image, all had their Wolverine guy, right?
Everyone
So
had their Wolverine Jason guy.
then you got your Wolverine guy in Wetworks, and
Mm-hmm.
any figure line that came out had their Wolverine guy.
Yeah, and I liked one of the things that I liked the most about Wolverine wasn't even really Wolverine himself. It was the whole your opposition has to match your hero. So the villains that Wolverine inspired and the characters that got created for his rogues
That
gallery
whole
are some of the
adamantium army,
yeah,
yeah.
some of the best just characters overall. I mean,
Yeah,
Sabretooth first and foremost, because he's phenomenal. And if you
right.
get a good writer working on Sabretooth and you establish things like every birthday, Sabretooth kills somebody close to Wolverine. That's why Wolverine hates his birthday. Uh,
Yep.
like that's the kind of stuff is amazing. Or you get, and I feel like I'm still in a very, very small minority on this. Cyber is one of my favorite
Yeah, I know
characters
you're a big Cyber
overall.
fan. I
I
like Cyber as
love
well.
him. I love that somebody realistically created a character that Wolverine, who fears nothing, was afraid of. They have since ruined this character, which makes me
Mhm.
sad. But I remember when they introduced him in Marvel Comics Presents, just being enthralled with this character and this small story that probably not a lot of people read, where
Mhm.
Wolverine was acting weird. And when Cyber shows up, it's one of the first times that he recoils from somebody. And then they
Mhm.
get into the background about how this guy abused him and did all kinds of horrible stuff and made him genuinely fear him because he doesn't fear Sabretooth. He hates
No.
him and actively goes at him. Cyber he feared. But like I love that his rogues gallery is so these are characters I just like Spider-Man's rogues gallery is very nicely curated to him where outside of Spider-Man, Mysterio could mess people up, but he
Right.
insists on fighting Spider-Man.
Like a doofus. But you see what he did to
Sabretooth,
Wolverine.
yeah, you put him in any other situation with almost any other hero and
Yeah.
he dominates. And the same
Mysterio
thing with
destroyed the X-Men.
yeah, and same thing with someone like Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah.
You put her against Wolverine, and she's dangerous and
And we got a
savage and
bunch of
scary. But
horrible
you put
figures for her.
yeah, the figures of Lady Deathstrike made me sad. But she's another one where like you take her and you drop her in the middle of like the Avengers or something, and she's gonna do some serious damage, and you
Right.
need Wolverine to rein
Or
her in.
like
But yeah,
Omega Red. Omega Red gave out that like he spread disease originally.
yeah, yeah, he had like the weird
And
illness
then Wolverine, of
pheromones that
course, yeah, of course,
he,
Wolverine didn't get
yeah,
sick. So
yeah, I love that he would get sick and then heal. Or
yeah.
didn't it affect his healing factor?
And it did
I
something weird, but they changed the story about what he gave off all the
he's
time. Like
he's
at
another
first,
one.
it was like anyone in his presence is going to get sick and die,
Yeah,
and then
and I think that's one of the unfortunate pitfalls to having a super cool character like that is that they can only be super cool for so long before you get a writer who doesn't really know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
they suffer because of it. But you're right. The I remember the original figure for Lady Deathstrike in the Marvel Legends line.
Ugh.
Man, it was rough because I remember the
I would take
folds
the
from
old
her.
Toy Biz one over that one.
Man,
She
yeah,
was
I
hunched over. She wouldn't stand up straight.
it
The
was
knees
really rough looking.
buckled. Yeah, it was tough. It was
Strange
tough.
face sculpt. I remember the folds on her arm.
This shirt, yeah.
Yeah, the shirt stuff was, but it turned out to it. They made it solid, so it just seemed like another weapon, and it was it was
It
very
was
weird.
terrible. Terrible.
I appreciate what
Just
they were
terrible.
going for,
Right.
but it did not translate well to plastic.
No.
Um,
So, moving on with Wolverine toys. So we get through the 90s and there's 50 million Wolverine toys, right?
mhm.
And then we get into the 2000s and we have some good and we have some bad.
Yeah,
So,
you get your tactical Wolverine with like stealth armor, and you get
right,
your
right. But then we get movie Wolverine when we
yes. So now the X-Men movies have happened.
right.
Now Hugh Jackman is Wolverine for all intents and purposes, and we need toys to depict that. So here we go.
Yeah, the X-Men movie line had some great figures. A
Mhm.
couple. Like Charles
Had
Xavier was really well done.
yes,
Maybe one or two Hugh Jackman. And then all the rest were garbage.
it was rough. It's a
Yeah.
rough time. It was a rough period of time. There's a lot of growing pains happening with that, that particular
Yeah,
toy
they were
line.
trying a lot of things. Like I'll give them that. They were trying a lot of things that kind of failed. At least they did Patrick Stewart good on that.
Mhm.
They did him a solid. That was good. So,
It,
you
it
know,
was interesting. It was interesting seeing them try to figure out how that kind of leather outfit would work in action figure form. Uh,
right,
Not
right,
the best. They gave it a shot.
right. Everybody looked like they were in a cheap scuba suit.
Yeah.
But what we also got towards the early 2000s there, I think, was the X-Men. No, I think it was later than that. But the Evolution line,
Hmm.
the cartoon,
Yes.
X-Men Evolutions, which was fantastic. That
Yes.
toy line was amazing.
Them going for a more animated aesthetic did the line wonders because they
Yeah,
nailed. I feel like they nailed most of the figures. They were looked like really good representations of the characters on screen.
yeah,
The proportions were very specific to that show, and going from that to a toy actually worked really well.
yeah.
Like I said, like
They did
Wolverine worked
four
really
inch
well.
and 5 inch.
Yes,
They
yeah,
did, right?
they had two separate lines for it, which
And
I would
both
like
were
to see
great. Both
people.
were great. Yeah.
I would like to see them try to tackle that kind of thing again. I don't know, what budgeting for companies is
Well,
are anymore, but
They did with Origins, the Wolverine Origins movie. They
mhm.
did the 4 inch,
Yes,
which again, some of them were pretty good.
because
And then
that was when they were still pushing Marvel Universe, isn't it?
correct, yeah.
Yeah, so I do kind of wish they would bring that back just to kind of justify doing two separate lines. And yeah, and some of them would work, some of them not so much. But then you had the 6 inch line for to make up for anything that maybe was not a home run in the
Right. And
four
the
inch
six
line.
inch line, that blob was
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yes.
Juggernaut, that Nightcrawler was one of the better ones that we
Yeah.
had. That Magneto was fantastic. And the
Hmm.
Wolverines, all of them had that good stocky look, that
Yeah.
animated style. I really enjoyed those figures. I
Hmm.
tracked them all down.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those figures. I really enjoyed the Marvel Universe. They made but they were also hit and miss, like the Daredevil, horrible. But the
Yeah.
Wolverine that came with the motorcycle,
Hmm.
fantastic. That was a great
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah. They were having I remember them having a really hard time deciding whether or not someone should be sickly spindly or properly like have the proper amount of volume to a mold. So you get a
Right.
Spider-Man who's supposed to be agile, and instead he just looks like he needs some chicken soup.
Yeah, probably more than chicken soup. Do you know what else was a cool toy? I think they were called supersized.
Mhm.
They made a big Magneto. They made a Spider-Man and a Venom and a Wolverine. They had a
Oh,
button on the chest that
mhm.
they would talk. Um,
Yes.
that Wolverine is one of my favorites.
Hmm.
he's in that weird like claw stance. But you know what's
Yeah.
funny? When I was moving one time, I threw him in a box, and the button kept getting pressed every time I'd hit a bump. And
Uh,
then so there was one thing where you'd hear the claws, that ching ching ching, and he'd go Claw City, and like
it's awesome.
I would hear that like every time I hit a bump, Claw City.
Now, I told him to come back there.
Yeah, come back there, Wolverine. Uh, but I love that Venom is also fantastic. It's
Hmm.
great.
I forgot, was Wolverine part of the Icons line? Because that was the one that also had Venom, I think Spider-Man,
The
was
big
Doctor
Marvel
Doom part of it?
Legends.
Yeah,
Yeah. Doctor
very
the original
very
line
heavily
was,
articulated.
yeah, that Captain America was fantastic, but
Hmm.
that Wolverine is great.
Yeah.
I love that Wolverine because they did the one with the his hood's off.
Yes.
Like is down. Yeah. They did the same thing with Spider-Man and Captain America.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that line is great, except for the Spider-Man's not great.
Wasn't their best offering.
No, but that Wolverine is very well sculpted. The face
Hmm. Yeah.
sculpt was fantastic on that.
So what do you think
The
of the
Hulk
current?
for that line is amazing.
Oh yeah, because
We
it's
didn't
it's
even bring
so
that up when we talked about the Hulk, and we should have.
it's
That's an
it's so
amazing figure.
it's so appropriately massive, and it
Yeah,
has all the it's just a giant beefy block of plastic that you could probably hurt somebody with.
right. And so we went for, and we're skipping around and stuff, but like
Yeah.
we get these couple of years where we were just blasted with Wolverine forever, 15 years.
Mhm.
And then they kind of got a little gone, right? And now because leading up to the Deadpool Wolverine movie, suddenly there were more Wolverines, and now, Deadpool Wolverine's all over the place.
Yeah. What I'm glad you brought up Deadpool because that was really, I don't want to say the antidote, but that was the new obsession that people kind of flocked
Right.
towards. Like here you
Which
have
I
this.
kind of secretly hate that because Wolverine was, I mean, Deadpool was my little secret for a long time, and then
It's rough when someone discovers your hidden treasure and they're
yeah,
like, oh hey, this is also cool. This is like the meme of everyone enjoying having a pineapple on their head, and then the corporate guys come in and then they see it and they also start putting pineapples on their head. So everyone else
yeah,
just leaves while they talk amongst themselves about how cool this thing is. Uh but yeah, like once Deadpool became the new darling, we started to see a reduction in Wolverine being everywhere. Well, now it's you need Deadpool to sell anything that you've got, and everyone does some sort of crossover with him and whatnot. But the
right.
but the last, like you said, maybe 10, 15 years of Marvel Legends, whether it be from from Toy Biz, from Hasbro, has been, there's so many Wolverines and there's so many incarnations of him and there's so many slight, whether it's the astonishing X-Men outfit, whether it's the classic X-Men outfit, whether it's the X Factor outfit, the stealth outfit,
Fantastic Four outfit.
yeah, the Fantastic Four outfit, the casual clothing, the outfit where he's patched. You
Yep.
still have so many versions of him that will always be there'll always be a demand for him. There'll always be someone that wants whatever particular version of Wolverine you put out there. Somebody's going to want that. And
Yeah.
as they continue to refine their engineering and their building chops, and as they update the bucks on a lot of different figures, well, we just came up with this new male buck. We got to put a new Wolverine on it because it makes the best use of it.
Right.
So
And then the stories get cool, like that Ghost Rider one looks
mhm,
fantastic. That's a great figure.
yes, and you always have an opportunity to have some weird comic based variation of Wolverine, like the demon. What is it? Helverine. I think they call that one. I don't think they call that on the
That's
box, but
Ben
yeah, like
Vereen. What?
you get that one, or you get just flat out heat claws. Because for a
Mhm.
while he had heat claws.
Oh
Why?
God, I
Who
hated that.
cares? It's so silly. But I
Because
was
now
like,
he could
sure,
he
heat
could
him up.
cut through anything anyway. It's not like,
Look,
but now he can cut through cold butter, right?
yeah, now he can cut the butter whenever he wants and not worry about it sticking to his claws. He's got hot
Now here's my
claws.
question: were they hot inside his arm?
I think that was the story. I think when he first came back, chances are he went to hell.
Right.
So when he came back, I guess he brought a little bit with him. So
Because he still had human flesh on him, even though he has a healing.
yes,
It would still burn and then
yes,
heal.
yep.
So he would then not only be in constant pain. I don't know. I guess I
He
would
would
read too much into it.
he would smell great because you start burning his claws and you're like, hey, you smell something cooking? He's like, yeah, that's me.
Smells like
That's
Canadian bacon.
that's that'd be me, Bub. I'm the best there is at what I do. And what I
Right.
do is make Canadian bacon out of me. Just cutting, just stripping it off. What potential for some real body horror to happen during the Hot Claws Wolverine, and
Oh,
they
absolutely.
didn't take advantage of it. Should have
You
got the
know
guy doing the Immortal Hulk for that.
you know what Wolverine I wasn't a fan of, and I embarrassingly bought these figures. And I don't even know why. I do know why, because I was buying like it was the first ones that were like released to not play with. Like they weren't
Okay.
toys. It was the
Mhm.
famous covers. They were almost Mego-esque.
Oh, okay.
They had the real
Yeah.
cloth, sort of like
Mhm.
they were almost the like the predecessors to the Action 8 figures that we
Yes.
have now that are awesome. Um,
Mhm.
and they were about 8 inches.
Mhm.
Terrible, just terrible. Like the Doctor Doom is covered in a rubber onesie, including
Oh
his
no.
mittened hands. They look like he's wearing oven mitts, and the
Oh.
Wolverine gloves are literally a glove fist
Mhm.
with these goofy looking, like not sharp looking. They're connected. It almost looks like two shovels on his
Oh
hands.
no.
Yeah,
Yikes.
they're horrible. I They first came out and I don't know why. I guess I bought them to feel like a collector. Because they were like,
Sometimes that happens.
Toy Biz, this is our collector's line. Kind of like I
Yeah.
got duped into spending $30 for a $20 figure. Um, I
Oh
think
yeah.
it was for like the mature collector,
Yeah, and
Mego-esque. Like it was going for the older guys that had Mego before, right?
they came in that box. Like it was a really ornate, really
Yeah,
like
it was
overproduced box
black.
to
It
make
was
you feel
black.
special.
It had the writing on
Yep.
the bottom in
Mhm.
gold and red. Yeah,
They
it was
went full.
fantastic looking packaging.
They went full McFarlane for that. Like you want to
I
feel
got
special. You want to feel like
suckered
a big
in.
man. You want to feel like a big man collector. Collect these, and you
Yeah,
did, and they were terrible. Which
yeah, just terrible.
we've all been there.
Yeah,
We've all wanted to make that jump, and unfortunately, jumped off the wrong bridge. It
yeah,
is it is pretty unfortunate. But thankfully things have gotten better since then because you
yeah.
because now if you want to feel like a big shot, then you get like a Hot Toys or something or Mondo because Mondo just recently did another version of their Wolverine, which I
Right.
loved their. Do you remember their initial Wolverine offering that
Yes.
came in the bed? It came with a
The
picture of
picture.
Gene Cyclops. I love see that's what I love when toy companies are appropriately in on the joke and
Right.
it's not pandering, but it's we know you think this is funny. Here you go, and then you
Right.
just put it out there, and it's
Yeah,
really
you
fun.
just
And
put
it's
it
a
out
well
there.
done figure. It helps that it's an incredible figure. Like they reached into the television and pulled out animated X-Men Fox version Wolverine. Uh,
Right.
that kind of stuff is amazing. It's great to see that they're still in that same mindset because the
Right.
most recent one looks incredible.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to say in closing, as we kind of close this out, like Wolverine is probably the reason why we had that comic book boom. Like
Mhm.
initially, like
Yeah,
certainly the toy lines were very Wolverine driven from
yeah,
the animated series, but that whole Toy Biz bit, just like when Marvel Legends kicked into Iron Man mode, right when the movie came out,
yeah.
um, Wolverine was the driving force for almost all of the 90s.
Mhm.
And then you got into, in the mid to late 90s, all the other toy lines started. But to start off, it was the X-Men, it was Toy
Yeah.
Biz, and the animated series allowed the Spider-Man animated series to kick off and that Toy Biz
Mhm.
line and the Fantastic Four and that Toy Biz line. But if it wasn't for Wolverine, I don't think we would have gotten that animated series, and I
Yeah.
don't think that toy line would have kicked off the way it did.
Yeah, you're right because he was one of those characters that got popular enough where parents started to recognize who he was.
Right.
And if you needed a birthday gift for a boy, at that time, if you needed a birthday gift for a boy, you went and you were looking for either Spider-Man or Wolverine. You're like,
Right.
whatever kid, he's gonna like one of these. Whoever it is, whoever I see first, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm giving. There will be smiles all around. Wolverine, yeah, kind of transcended that, made everyone super popular.
Mhm.
Yeah, helped make the cartoon what it was. And then you got your follow-ups with Wolverine and the X-Men. But we to this day
Oh yeah, those were good toys too.
we are still paying the Wolverine tax, right? Yeah, right along with Iron Man, because like you said, the movies kind of pushed Iron Man to the forefront. But we still to this day, and people gladly pay it.
Hmm.
Every line of Marvel Legends in some way, shape, or form will have a Wolverine in it. It's super rare. It's kind of an oddity if there isn't at least one. But
Right.
yeah, he is another one of those evergreen properties or evergreen characters where you can just refresh them over and
Yeah.
over and over.
They were one of my favorite Wolverine toys is, and I don't even know when it was made. It was sometime in the 90s. And it was such a weird toy. So it was like these, it was like a plastic, almost looked like you could use it as a vehicle, like almost
Mm-hmm.
like Marty McFly's hoverboard,
Uh-huh.
right? And then it had on the top half a handle with a trigger that you
Mm-hmm.
would hold it and pull the trigger, and it had a mechanism and a slot where you would put Wolverine's foot and it would connect somehow to a mechanism in there. And when you
Mm-hmm.
pulled the trigger, he would slash his claws and kick randomly. And
Oh, nice.
he looked like a drunken can girl, but it was cool. And then it came with another one that had, oddly enough, venom.
Huh.
And so you could hold them or
That's
have one of your buddies hold them and have this
yeah.
melee. It looks like, two skinny dudes just slapping and kicking once in a while.
The
But
more
it
the
was
more
like a
fun rock'em sock'ems.
it was like a rock'em sock'em robot. And if you got, I think there was a spot on the chest, and
Mm-hmm.
if you got it, the leg joint, the hip joint would give out, and he'd just fall forward like. Mm. But
Powering down.
yeah, those are pretty cool. Those are pretty cool.
Real
Goofy.
real quick, do you remember the Wolverine cycle? It was it was during Toy Biz, and it was it was almost like it was just like a normal motorcycle, Wolverine colors, a tan and a yellow, but I think on both sides of the front wheel were these two blocks, and sticking out of each
The
block
claws.
were the claws.
The
So as you
claws.
drove, and they like pistoned up and down, so as you
Yeah.
rolled forward, they would like chop away at, I don't know. It was just so, I remember being so funny to see
Yeah.
this thing, and I was like, "Who designed it? Forge,
Right.
what are you doing?" Drunken Forge
It
came up
was
with this in the middle of
definitely
the night,
Forge. And then
and he's like, "Just give it a try." And he's like,
like,
"Why would I ride this ever?
it's not street legal.
Can't ride this, bub. No, just do it. Just once around the mansion. Just do it. Do it for Forge. Come on."
Yeah, he's riding around like the
Just,
kid from The Shining.
he's like, "I feel so stupid on this thing." Well, you don't have to take it out on the road. Just run it. Just let me know what you think. Come on.
Right.
So, all right. So on that note, I feel like Wolverine Cycles is gonna point as any
Good. Yeah.
to ask you a question about
Oh,
Wolverine.
okay.
And that is
You know what was
what?
made, you know what's made me laugh about Wolverine and his fascination with Jean Grey and his
Mhm.
obsession with her relationship with Cyclops. And
how, how weird
he's always like
how
the
weirdly inappropriate it is.
yeah, well, he's always like skipping over that part. He's always like, pretty boys get the girls. But Wolverine, who's 5.5 feet tall, hairy,
Yeah.
grumpy
Yeah.
murderer, hooked
Has
up with
slept with
half of the Marvel universe.
easily. Easily. How many stories are out there about offspring that are Wolverine's kids in some way,
Right.
shape, or form? There's always some story about who, like,
He's
name
like
your
the
woman
Gene
he's had,
Simmons of the Marvel universe.
constantly getting hit on in some way, shape, or form. That whenever Wolverine is nearby, no women in Marvel pass the Bechdel test. There's
Right.
always some conversation about him. One of my favorites, though, is there's some issue of, I don't know if it's X-Men or whatever. I've only seen the sequence out of context. It's She-Hulk and Wolverine fighting, and he's like, "Could you smash? Could go for a fastball right now?" And he's like, "I normally do this with like the Thing or Colossus." She's like, "I've seen it done. I know how it's done." So he sits in her palm, and she's like, "Oh, you got some tight glutes. You work out?" And he's like, "This is awkward. Just throw me." But yeah, you're right. Like every every woman in Marvel,
But the guy
in
with
some way, shape, or
in
form,
real life, 5.5 feet tall, sideburns, dirty jeans that he never gets changed out of, drives up on a motorcycle that has to have training wheels because he's so short. There's no way. No way.
he had to pull up on the Wolverine cycle because nothing else really fits him that well. And they're like, "Yeah, that'll do. That's that's attractive to me. Guess it's what's on the inside that counts."
So, all right, what's
But
your question?
question time. You can make any Wolverine toy based on Wolverine. What are you making?
Uh,
Who are
they've
you
all,
making?
I feel like they've all been made. I think you're the guy to do this. This should be ambitious. I'd want an animated looking one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or at least comic book looking one. But
Mm-hmm.
I love the comic cover and it's everybody's seen it and it's kind of cliche. But when he's got the claw up and the reflection of the Hulk is coming
Yes.
at him, I want that in figure form. I don't know how you would do it.
McFarlane comes close with
He
his.
does. Yeah,
Yeah, I do wish that figure was animated, or was like a full figure that was
yeah,
articulated, because
yeah.
that would look really cool.
Because I was
Um,
really trying playing around with my photography and I almost got it.
mhm,
I'm still working on it. Is Nemesis Enforcer like a
mhm,
picture of Cobra Commander with my
uh,
Nemesis Enforcer
mhm.
figure reflected in his mask? And
Oh, nice,
I've almost
very
got the
nice.
angle down perfectly, but that would be that would be a cool figure.
I agree. That would be really cool, especially if you made it a 2-pack with like
Right.
with that version of the Hulk. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Um, I I will never follow my own rules, so I'm going to cheat and say I want a 2-pack of, because we like, I don't know if we'll ever get this. There recently it was announced that Marvel and DC were going to be working on some collaborative project,
Mhm.
and I am still bitter that
Is
we
this
never
Lobo?
we oh I don't know, but we never got a toy of the Amalgam universe from that '90s
We
Marvel
didn't.
DC crossover,
And
and
that
I
one
want,
was cool. Like they keep doing
yeah,
it, but that was the original was cool.
I want a toy of Dark Claw. I want the
Yes.
Wolverine Batman combo
Yes.
versus the Hyena, that cool saber tooth Joker
Yes.
combo. I want that. And if they're not going to give me that, because they revisited this in Marvel. There was a story where Gamora got the Infinity Gauntlet, she killed Thanos. There was a weird thing, and in, instead of wiping out half of the Marvel universe, she fused them together. So two characters became one person, and it was called Infinity Warps, and it was really weird, it was really silly, but it had some interesting concepts, one of them being Wolverine fused with Emma Frost, and it turned him into this. His name was Diamond Patch, and he had blonde hair, he had the patch outfit, but his claws were diamond, and that was
Huh.
really cool. And I was like,
That is pretty cool.
yeah, like, you own this, Marvel. Give us toys. Give us
Yeah, that
toys
would
of
be
this.
pretty awesome. That would be the Dark Claw would be pretty awesome.
Also, we've never gotten of all the things we've gotten, of all the versions of Wolverine that we have seen appear in the toy line, we have never once gotten Wolverine's skeleton. Just
Like the
Wolverine's
Terminator. Yeah.
skeleton. I want that to hang, and we've never gotten another 2-pack. I want Rick Jones, and I want Wolverine's skeleton so he can
Yeah.
hang that in his shed when the Maestro comes to power.
Yeah.
But that is what I want. So I guess on that note, we will call it quits for now. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Two Guys Talking Toys. Let us know what your favorite Wolverine action figure was, or what your favorite Wolverine action figure could be. You can get a hold of us on Blue Sky. Our handle is Two Guys Talking Toys. That is the number 2, no G after the talking. Same thing for our Gmail. You can follow us on Instagram at 2G Talking Toys. Until next time, I guess we're the best it is at what we do, Bub.
Like my podcast, bub.
I would love to hear a Wolverine podcast. What do you call that? The final cut? Do you call it the best there is? Well, will that be a CM Punk podcast? I mean, right. CM Punk once is very Wolverine-ish, especially when he fought Brock Lesnar. So maybe you call it like the best there is. And he would have like Bruce Banner on. And he's like, "We had a lot of scrapes, haven't we, Bub? Oh yeah, remember that one time I threw you off a bridge? Remember that time I stabbed you in the eye? Which time?" And they chuckle. I'd be on board for that. That would be hilarious. Superhero
Especially if it was
podcast.
Set up like The View.
With a panel, I got a whole panel of people today. These are all women that I've had a fling with, and it's like right. Wanda, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Storm, Rogue, and then like Hercules, because it's some random story of Hercules are a thing. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" It's like, well, I read the topic. Oh, that's awesome.
Called like the Chuckle Patch or something.
Yeah, something completely not Wolverine. Corners with smiles. This is the Wolverine podcast?
Right. Oh. And all it is like a bunch of like hoity-toity cigar aficionados.
I remember when this was new. And he's just talking about 1627 when the cigar first came into existence.
Right.
They're like, I don't remember that being a thing. But yeah, you're right. When they did Origins for him, that I didn't need to know all of this.
They ruined it. They ruined it with the Origins.
I even would have been fine if they treated it as a what if they treated it as a false memory, where like he tells this whole story and then later on like Captain America goes to confirm it, or someone goes to Captain America and they're like, "Is this true?" And he's like, "Some of that's true, but the rest of it doesn't. I don't remember any of that. That didn't happen." They're like, "You've been effed up in the head by Weapon X for decades. You don't know what happened to you."
I was always the whole time thinking, eventually they're going to throw a loop in this, and put doubt to the story, so you didn't know if it was true or not. But
because they've been doing that for so long. Like there were so many stories where he's like, "I remember this one time," and then they flash back to Vietnam, and you find out he was the one responsible for whatever. You're like, okay, sure, that's a thing that could have happened, and they just needed to keep doing that. Like that's like establishing a timeline for Vandal Savage. You're like, no, don't do that. No one needs to know this.
Yeah,
I like the mystery.
All right, I guess we'll get ready for tomorrow.
Alrighty, sounds good. Good to see you again. I'll be in touch with you during the week.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I will talk to you later, Dana.
Bye.
Bye.